What's up guys, it's your host, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video, and today we have What If Issei Was Betrayed and Snapped Part 4. And before we start this video, if you guys want to know my upload schedule, all you have to do is join that little channel membership button. It's a blue button right next to the subscribe button, and please hit that subscribe button as well. Also like the video. You don't have to, of course, but it would be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Chapter 7, The First Step. Issei's eyes were closed as he entered the circle with the Gregoric. He knew that this decision will bring about many changes. He felt that if he played his cards right, he could have the hero faction defect and destroy the Chaos Brigade. After a few moments, he opened his eyes when Gregoric called out to him. "We are here, Leader-sama. Please wait a moment while I go gather the rest of the faction in the courtyard," said Gregoric, as Issei nodded. "So, how are you feeling, Habo?" asked Drake. "To be honest, a little nervous. I mean, I am walking on a very tight rope right now," replied Issei as he stared at the wall in front of him. Before they could continue, Gregoric appeared and said, "The faction is waiting for you, Leader-sama." Nodding, Issei followed him to the courtyard of the hero faction headquarters, where everyone else was waiting. Upon entering the courtyard, he was faced by a large group of people who were looking at him with excited looks on their faces. It was then that the Gregor spoke and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, our new leader, the Red Dragon Emperor Issei Hyodo." After a round of applause, Issei stepped forward and said it. "It is an honor to become a part of this faction. I promise to lead you to the best of my abilities and ensure that our factions remains intact and strong." Following another round of these cheers, Issei began to individually greet them of the members present. After the greetings were over, Issei turned to Grail with a hardened gaze and said, Gather around the other influential members. I need a rundown of our recent actions so that we can formulate a decent plan of what we need to do next." Grail nodded at and motioned Issei to follow him, leading into the meeting room. After a few minutes, 4 figures entered the room. Issei remotely recognized them as Hercules, Jean, Siegfried, Leo, and Gregor. "Thank you all for coming to this meeting," was called by Leader-sama to find out about our latest assignments and objectives, said Gregor. "I want all of you to give him a report on what you've been doing over the last 2 to 3 months. It should give me a fair idea of what to do next," said Issei as the other members began the reports. The first to speak was Siegfried. "Thanks to KOKO leaving, we have had a massive cuts in our numbers, and because of this we haven't been able to active at all. To counteract this, me and Jean have been scouting different swordsmen from the church and some old famous families to come and join us." Nodding, Issei asked, "So have we had any luck in recruiting people from the said sources?" "Indeed we have. I managed to convince the heirs of the Duloc and the Galad families to join us, as well as the more dread Pentagon. The 3 of them are actually good and can challenge me in my balance breaker. As for the church, it's a little risky, as most of the people who leave are a flight risk in themselves, hence I am filtering those that are okay to join us," Siegfried replied. "Good, that's good. One thing, Siegfried, I want you to try limiting your use of Graham. Don't get me wrong, you are way too valuable to lose, hence I want you to take your squad of subordinates and retrieve the demonic sword rebellion for your use. Consider this as your first mission," said Issei. Siegfried's face went from a frown to a bliss, and he said, "Wow, I have been requesting to go search for that sword for a long time. However, I was never allowed to do so. All right, Leader-sama, I respect your decision and will limit the use of the Graham. When can I leave for my mission?" "You can leave right now. You have a whole month to finish this, so take your time doing it," said Issei as Siegfried nodded before standing up and leaving with Jean. "Are you sure it was wise to let Leader-sama? We currently are short on members." "Are you sure it was wise to let him go, Leader-sama? We are currently short in numbers," said Gregor. "Don't worry, the next few months will be laying low. I intend to not only get numbers, but also to strengthen the others without making sacrifices," said Issei, to which Gregor nodded. "I guess I will go next. Just as Siegfried said about our numbers, I have been recruiting talented explosion experts and hand-to-hand fighters who have the ability to harm supernatural beings. They are called hunters, and I have recruited the strongest duo among them," said Hercules. "Good work, Hercules. I want you to go on recruiting these so-called hunters, and also good look for a sacred gear for me," said Issei. "What sacred gear are we talking about?" asked Hercules. "It's the strongest Vitria gear. It holds Vitria souls, along with all of its other powers. I want you to search for it and bring it to me. Here's a map of its presumed location," said Issei. Nodding, Hercules stood up and left to start his mission. "Gregor, I want you to take Leo and go meet with the rogue mage group. Your objective is to try to locate the wielder of the incarnate anthem and recruit her. After that, I wish for you to go to the Celtic faction and find Scarlet Lancer and try bringing her here to talk to me, said Issei. Jorg nodded and stood up before bowing and leaving Leo on his tail. Sighing, Issei sat down and began wondering how LeFay was doing and how the next few months would play out, and that's the end of Chapter 7. Chapter 8, Gaining Ground. It was after 3 weeks that Grigori had returned. Report, Issei ordered. I had a few suspicions regarding the Road Maid group, and after a little snooping around, I learned that they are a part of the Chaos Brigade. Since the old Mao faction is already eliminated and they aren't with us, so it's safe to presume that they are part of the third group, said Grigori. How troublesome, said Issei. So what happened with the Scarlet Lancer, asked Issei again. She did not want to join, but agreed to give us refuge in her realm if we ever needed it, replied Gorg. That's fine. Good work, Gorg. You are dismissed. Take the rest of the day off and relax yourself, said Issei. Gorg nodded as Issei was left to his thoughts again. The news on the third shady group was troubling to say the least. He needed to wait for the others to return so that he could organize a proper infiltration mission. For now, though, he had to wait to see what became of Siegfried and Hercules' mission. A week later, both Siegfried and Hercules had returned from their missions. Both of them were successful. So Hercules, go first on the report, said Issei as he was training. Leader-sama, the mission was a success, and here is what you asked me to bring. Also, on the way, I found some hunters who were planning on joining the Chaos Brigade. Albeit not join us, said Hercules as he handed Issei a purple orb. That mystery group was turning out to be way too troublesome. Anyway, good work, Hercules. Take a couple of days off. Dismissed, said Issei as Hercules bowed and left the room. Now then, Siegfried, you go next, said Issei as he turned to the white-haired swordsman. Leader-sama, allow me to thank you once again for the mission. It was a success. I have successfully obtained not only the rebellion, but also oblivion. Though we were faced by opposition from an unknown group who were after the swords, but they were defeated. The trouble was when they muttered something about Kao, but I sadly wasn't able to get anything out of them, said Siegfried. That complicates things. It seems that we were going head-to-head with the mystery group. It could turn out troublesome. Anything else, asked Issei? Leader-sama, I have a new recruit for us. His name is Yamato Tenzo, and he wields the demonic guns Ebony and Ivory, said Siegfried. Well done. On not only completing the mission, but also getting us a new powerful recruit. You are dismissed, get a couple days of rest. Oh, and send Gregor to me when you see him. I have a mission that requires his many talents, said Issei, to which Siegfried nodded and which bowed and then left him. A few minutes later, Gregor walked in and said, You called for me, Leader-sama. Yeah, I want you to get Leo. Tell him to create shadow monsters made from resonance. I want you to send the upper ethiclons of the Vacton, 2 to the underworld and 1 in the Mao office. One of the Gregor, and last 5 of them to get much information of mystery about the Chaos Brigade group. Tell him to create a central monster and keep him here so that the other branched ones can send it information as soon as possible. Any questions? Issei said as Gregor shook his hand and left. Talking out and then observing the purple orb in front of him, Issei summoned both of his gears, said Drag and Al. It is the real thing. Yes, it is, Habu. I am sensing a very strong genetic presence coming from it, Drake said in a very serious tone. It's definitely Vitria. I can feel it mainly because of how similar our powers are. He was known as the unofficial Black Dragon Emperor for a reason, though it is said that he wasn't sealed normally, replied AI. Nodding, Issei picked up the orb and placed it into his chest. It went into his soul with ease. After it was assimilated, Issei closed his eyes and entered his mindscape. There he saw standing in their auras Grondir, Drag, and AI, followed by a sleeping Vitria. The prison dragon was purplish black in color and was a long-like serpent having many tentacles. Is that him? Asked Issei, to which both dragons nodded. How do you suggest we wake him up? Asked Issei. Both dragons thought for a while. Before looking at each other, they silently formulated their plan. Without a warning, both roared very loudly. After a few moments, the purple dragon's red eyes fluttered open, and he looked around for a bit before spotting Drag, AI, and Issei. So if this isn't the Red Dragon Emperor, how can I help you? Said Vitria. Elsewhere, with the Alliance leaders, scene break. The reports that Issei has sent out on a mystery of the Chaos Brigade group are troublesome to say the least. Any ideas of what to do? Asked Michael. I think the current best thing we can do is leave it to Issei. He is one of the best positions to find the information, said Azazel, to which the other leaders nodded in agreement. I think that the current... so what are we going to do about those shadow monsters, asked her sex. I think we should leave them be. If we are going to do something to them, it might put Issei in a difficult position. So it's best if we let him snoop around a little and charge in a constant influx of valuable information, said Shima, getting hesitant nods from others. I think we should start preparing for the worst here. If that group managed to convince not only the wielder of the Holy Spear, but also purifying flames, it should indicate some sort of key, said Volley. I will have to agree with Volley here. 2 holy sacred gears, huh? I guess that at the very least, that means their next taller will be the Holy Grail. Azazel, do you have any information on its location? Asked Zex. Yeah, I have a small idea. I will send information to Issei, and we will send a team of our own and try to protect the wielder. Though it will be very difficult to approach that area, replied Azazel. And why is that? Michael asked curiously. The reading I received was from the heart of Romania, or in other words, the heart of the vampire territory, replied Azazel. Interesting. Azazel, tell Issei that I will meet with him there in 1 week. It's been a while since both of us went on a mission together, said Volley. Everyone nodded, and one by one left, leaving Volley to sigh at the recklessness of his brother. He would have to beat some sense into him when he returned from his current assignment. He then sighed again. LaFay is going to blow a casket when she learns of this. How am I going to tell her? Well, you could just lie to her and go alone without your team, or just take Arthur with you, said Albion. That's a good option. I guess I will go visit Kachan and play with Mito and Memba for a while, thought Issei thought Volley as he disappeared in a magic circle. Elsewhere, scene break. We see Rias running along a forest. Her face is etched with fear and her body bleeding. Just as she thinks she's safe, a large purple serpent with many tentacles appear and constricts itself around her, crushing her and causing her to scream out in pain. However, that wasn't the last of her worries, as the forest appeared 2 more dragons, and one was a celestial. One of the other ones was a feathery white. The purple serpent uses its tentacles to throw Rias into high airs, and the red and white dragons bite her limbs off. "Ugh!" yelled Rias as she screamed, getting up from her dream. These nightmares have been getting even worse, and nowadays was hardly getting any sleep. The dark circles underneath her eyes was clear evidence to that. Why is this happening to me? It must be because Issei left me. I'm sure it'll be alright when he comes back. I guess why I inversely start looking for him, thought Rias as she went to take a shower. And that's the end of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. Roar of Vitria. Inside his mindscape, Issei was standing face to face with another one of the sealed dragon kings, Vitria. Issei then said, Hello there, Vitria. I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to lend me your power. Now, why would I want to do that? You already have Dragon as soul fragment of Albion. Why do you need me? Vitria questions back. Well, you were just sitting there wanting to be collected by someone. Why not do something productive in that while? As why I need you, I am playing the role of double agent in very dangerous organization. If I play my cards right, I will be able to avert bloodshed and pledge to the cause of peace. That's another reason why I need your power alone. As interesting as the prospect sounds, I still don't see any reason why I should help you instead of me returning to my sleep. Vitria replied with a yawn. Oh, don't be like that, Vitria. Partner, here, we can handle both of mine and Drake's powers together. He is strong. He can also control both fire and ice, can use both elements together with sacrificing its effectiveness, AI said as he vouched for Issei. Before Vitria could reply, Drake decided to give in his own 2 cents as well, not to mention the fact that he is extremely stubborn, has a very strong drive to succeed, and his determination is second to none. Drake said, as he listed Issei's qualities of the prison dragon. You are right, these are impressive qualities to possess. Fine, I will give you my full support. But only if you manage to convince me in a fight using only your power. It hurts my pride, but despite being called an unofficial Black Dragon Emperor, both Drake and Albion are stronger than me, Vitria said. Issei smirked before he removed his jacket and shirt, revealing a very muscular body. Not the one like most bodybuilders, which becomes ugly. He had a few more of a swimmer's body that could have a perfect balance between speed and power. Looking back at Dragon AI, Issei said, You guys can go watch some TV. I will be done here soon. Both of the dragons nodded before they blew off, leaving a confused Vitria behind. How do you have TV here? Well, it's my mindscape. I can do whatever I want here. Both of them are my partners, so I try to make things as comfortable for them as possible, Issei replied in an honest voice. Now this surprised Vitria. Dragons were normally seen as monsters with no feelings whatsoever. It was because of this reason. They had either hunted, killed, or sealed, or even left alone. Vitria was surprised to see that someone actually existed who thought of his kind as sentient beings. Now then, Vitria almost had half heart to unconditionally agree to help his new host, but his dragon's pride would not allow him to do such a thing. Specifically, after looking at how determined the boy was showing him, Vitria decided that he would help the boy regardless of how he fought here. The future looked interesting. After a few moments, Issei blurred out of sight and appeared right in front of Vitria. He then punched the Dragon King as hard as he could. The punch actually caused his face to tilt to the right. Issei smirked at that, but then the smirk soon left his face when a tentacle hit him and sent him hurling to the floor. Groaning, Issei looked up to see the smirking form of Vitria. Sighing, Issei stood up and cracked his neck before flexing his shoulders. He then shouted, "Dragon Force!" Immediately his power skyrocketed, causing Vitria's eyes to widen. Issei's appearance had completely changed. His nails were longer, his body was full of red and white scales that were even on the sides of his face. His canines had grown and were now fang-like. His eyes were now in slits, and there were an extra eyelid in between his eyes. He flexed his shoulders again, releasing his wings, then flying, taking a deep breath, and then shouted, "Fire Dragon Emperor's Roar!" A large stream of fire left his mouth and hit Vitria head on, causing him to wince at the intensity of the force of the flames. Jumping back, he threw his tentacles towards Issei, who deftly used his small stature to dodge before getting behind Vitria and shouting, "Ice Dragon Emperor's Roar!" This time, a concentrated stream of pure ice energy hit Vitria, causing him to fly towards him. Vitria turned his head towards Issei and fired a weakened version of his purple-black flames at Issei. Knowing he couldn't dodge it, Issei collected both ice in both of his hands before he started spinning, creating an orb of pure ice. The shield protected him against the fire, but didn't stop the 3 tentacles that sent him flying down. Vitria then spoke, "Your power is very impressive for someone your age. I am convinced you are worthy of my power. I will assimilate the gear into you. It will appear as a chest plate when called upon." Issei went back to his form and grinned. He then said, "Nay, partner, can I ask you a question?" "What is it?" Vitria said. "What percentage of your power in the other gears?" Issei asked in a curious voice. "My other gears contain just 10% of my power. They contain my extra power that wasn't sealed into this gear," Vitria answered. "Heh, that's nice. Well, thanks, Vitria. I should get going. I need to plan for the next mission," Issei said before disappearing from his mindscape. Outside, scene break. Issei opened his eye to find a concerned-looking Grogor in front of him. "Are you okay, Leader Sama? You were unresponsive for a few minutes," Grogor asked. "It's nothing. I was assimilating the new gear with Drake. It's done now. There is no need to worry," said Issei. Grogor nodded and said, "So, Leader Sama, what are we going to do next?" "We will be invading Romania, and we will be kidnapping the wielder of the Seraph Garl. I have received word that the wielder is half vampire, who has hated all of her life for being half human. Our mission will be to rescue her from the Alliance or the mysterious group gets her. After I will convince her to join us. Any suggestions?" Issei said. "No suggestions, Leader Sama, though I have to ask who will be sent on the mission," Grogor asked. "I will lead it. You, Leo, Siegfried, along with Jane, will accompany me. Tell them to get ready. We are leaving tomorrow," Issei said as Grogor nodded and left, leaving Issei to his thoughts. That's the end of Chapter 9, Roar of Vitria. Chapter 10, Realization. Issei and his team all stood together, patiently waiting for Grogor to transport them to Romania. This mission was 5S ranked 1, and he was going to complete. He called Volley in to give him a hand in case things went south. Using his cunning brain, he already had a perfect excuse for his team if he questioned how he knew Volley and so well he was doing here. The plan was simple: invade the vampires and get the Holy Grail from them. But Issei was worried. He couldn't help but shake the feeling that something major was about to be revealed in the mission, something that might even force him to accelerate his plans to incorporate the hero faction into the Alliance. As soon as the Grogor arrived, they teleported to the coordinates that Issei gave to them. The plan was simple. They were to teleport a long way out of Romania and collect a few artifacts, then meet up with Team Volley, then finally retrieve the wielder of the Holy Grail. Issei had little information about the wielder of the Grail, as he knew few spies as he's stationed inside Romania. It turns out it was a girl named Valerie Tempest, who had suddenly become the head of the Tempest faction. This was the fact that startled Issei to no end. There was something big going on in the Vampire Kingdom. At the center of all of it was Valerie Tempest, the girl he had vowed to rescue. He sighed and rubbed his head a little. The last week full of troublesome reports in Romania. Apparently, the Treaty of Neutrality between the Tempest and Valdi faction had been broken, causing a civil war to break out. After he had learned that Sir Zex had sent Rias and her Parage because the Valdi faction had asked for Gasper. Now that red-handed Sisk cunt is doing it just to mess with me. Now that red-headed cis cunt is just doing it just to mess with me, Issei thought as he shook his head. Then there was sighting of a big black dragon with heteromatic eyes perched on top of Tempest faction's headquarters. Issei paled at the description as he exactly knew who he thought it was. He was currently the only mortal dragon to be at heavenly dragon level. It was Crom Krosh, the centrist dragon. Issei was sent that he wouldn't last 5 minutes against Crom Krosh. That guy could take on and defeat Shiva, who was the Hindu faction, without a match on a problem. Then it begged the question, why was a dragon, the strongest evil dragon, no less helping a faction in a civil war, specifically when the said faction was a vampire race? Dragons and vampires usually don't get along. It made the whole situation even more complicated and suspicious. Last but not least, Issei's spy had informed him that a devil with silver hair had been spotted inside the Tempest faction main manor. Issei knew that it wasn't Volley. Issei knew that it wasn't Volley. That just left one devil with those features, and that was Rizvam Livian Lucifer, one of the 3 super devils. He had already sent his piece of information to Volley, mentally preparing his brother and all of the lot. This appearance, however, was one that confused Issei the most. Why would vampires associate themselves with devils when they consider them lowly beings? Why would a super devil of all people be in that place? This was all too fishy. The appearance of Kromkraj, then Revizim, the superclass devil, was all too absurd unless it meant something else. Issei's new calculative mind immediately collected all that joined all of the dots. This was an organization. This had to be the 3rd and mysterious faction of the Chaos Brigade. From his report, he knew that he'd had the Holy Spear and the Holy Cross with them, and if they were in Romania, it meant that they were after the Holy Grail. He was confused because he didn't understand why that group would be collecting the 3 holy gears, unless, as soon as he put it all into one answer entered his mind, the answer made him pale. What the 3rd faction was planning was suicide. Not just them, but everyone's. No one even on the planet would survive if the plan went through. Seeing his paled expression, Jin, who had exponentially close to Issei, touched his arm and gave him a worried look. He sighed before looking at his group and saying, "Things are bad. I just realized what the reports mean, and I have found out the picture. It definitely isn't pretty." "What is it, Leader Sama?" asked Siegfried. He honestly liked Issei. He was fun to talk to in the free time. A great spring partner always took in opinions of others, and once while let others choose their own missions. "It's the 3rd Chaos Brigade group. I think I may have found out what their true purpose is," Issei said. "What did you figure out?" Leader Sama curiously asked. "You may have noticed that Kao joined the group, giving them the Holy Spear. Then it was confirmed that Rogue Mage group possessing the Holy Cross also joined it. I have reason to believe that both Rizvim and Kromkrach are a part of the group and now are after the Holy Grail. Now tell me what you did God used to derive these 3 gears," Issei cryptically asked. "He derived it from..." "You don't mean that, do you?" Siegfried yelled in the end. Issei nodded and gravely said, "Exactly. They are going to use the 3 holy relics and unseal the beast of Apocalypse Trihexa." All of the mates stood there, stunned. They wanted to prove that humans were superior to the supernatural, but something like the Trihexa wouldn't leave anything to prove. The insane beast was said to be equal in power to Great Red itself. Heck, it took combined power of both God and all of the original Maos just to seal the beast. And if a fight broke out between the Trihexa and Great Red, then it would be the real end of the world for all the other factions. Humans and supernatural alike. Regardless who won it, it would be the real arrival of the Ragnarok. And the most troublesome fact is that they have been a way of controlling the monster, Issei tiredly sighed. "How do you know, Issei?" Jean asked, as she was now afraid and was leaning into Issei was holding her in order to comfort her. "I know Kromkrach likes challenges and Revizin wants destruction, but neither of them are stupid enough to release the Trihexa without a solid way to control it. The beast would kill them in an instant if not controlled." Issei answered them in a tone becoming even more grave than before. This made his whole team eerily quiet. The situation was graver and then grave. They had to move in order to secure the Holy Grail before anything drastic happened. All of them were brought out of the super when Grog turned to Issei and asked, "So what do we do, Leader Sama?" "Honestly, I have half a mind to take our group away from the Chaos Brigade side with the Alliance. But you want to tell me what to do?" Issei asked. Your thoughts are the most logical ones, Leader Sama. There will be no one to prove our superiority if all of us die. Therefore I agree joining the alliance to deal with the third group, Grail said. I have no qualms in joining the alliance, Leader Sama. Despite being with us for a short time, you haven't led us wrong. We are actually stronger than ever, so I will trust you and be your sword until the bitter end, Siegfried said with conviction. I fell in love with you, Issei. I won't leave you. The devils may have done that. I won't. I will follow you until the end, Jean said. You are a good leader. You care for all your subordinates and treat them as if they were your equals. You changed me from being a simple tool to a boy of my age. There isn't anyone I trust more than you, so I will follow you as well, Leo chirped, causing Issei to smile and ruffle his head affectionately. You guys, thank you, Issei said honestly. Well, let's get going. We need to find a way to stop Quillipoth, said Issei as he turned around and started walking towards the direction of the relic he wanted. Quillipoth, is that what we need to call a mysterious group? Gregor asked. Yes. Look at the way Seraphoth means to give life. They want to do the opposite and take away life, thence why Quillipoth? Issei answered as the other three members of his team nodded. All of them then raced towards the ruin to find the relic, which happened to be the Black Sword Jiggery. Chapter 10, Realization. Chapter 11, Red Queen. Issei and his group suddenly materialized on the outskirts of an abandoned western shrine that somehow seemed to radiate power. This was a location well known to the hero faction, as they had made several attempts to gain the artifact inside the shrine, but could never enter because of an unknown and unbreakable barrier. What are we doing here, Leader Sama? The place is insensible because of that wretched barrier around it, Brogue said. True. But the shrine contains the sword of a legendary Nero, the Red Queen. He was the previous wielder of the boosted gear. In his last moments, he used the gear to create this barrier. Because of that, no one except those with the energy signature similar to Drake can enter it. Issei explained as he chuckled at Gregor's uncharacteristic huff. Issei then told the rest of his team to wait for him. He was going in alone and retrieve the blade, after which they would go to Romania and then carry out the rescue operation. But there will be dangers inside. You can't go in there alone, Jean worriedly said. She was scared that she would lose the only man she ever had feelings for. Her concern caused Issei to give her a very warm smile, which caused her cheeks to burn up. Issei then snaked his hands around her slender waist and pulled her towards him, and before she could speak, he planted his lips on her, giving her a chastened yet passionate kiss. They broke away a few moments later. After that, Issei placed his forehead on hers and said, "Don't worry, I will be back. That's a promise of a lifetime." Jean only blissfully nodded as Issei gave her another peck on the lips before entering the shrine. As he left, Siegfried smirked at the blushing Jean and said, "So Jean, when can we expect to become grandfathers?" Jean blushed intensified before she shouted, "Idiot!" after hitting a Siegfried on the head, which caused him to tumble before he balanced himself and started snickering at a steaming Jean. Now, scene break, we're with Issei inside the shrine. As Issei was moving deeper into the shrine, he could feel the resonance of the sword's energy, but couldn't pinpoint its location. Finally, after another useless attempt at sensing the sword, he decided to ask his resident Dragon Emperor for information of the sword's location. "Now, Drake, where is that sword? I can sense its energy everywhere, so where exactly should I go?" After a few minutes of contemplation, Drake said, "To the northeast from here, partner. Be careful, though, if I were you. Nero, he would have left more than one trap, which would test whether a wielder is worthy or not." However, Issei could not answer. Vitria interjected and said, "I don't really see what the problem is. You've gotten a fair control over the shadow manipulation power you gained through the prison of ruin. Why not join the shadows and ultimately avoid all the traps before picking up the sword?" Next to speak was ALB, who said, "Now that you think about it, this is a very plausible plan. Go through with it, Ayabo." Nodding at the assessment of his partners, Issei summoned the Prison of Ruin and said, "Balance Breaker!" As he said, the Vitria called out in the prison dragon, "Balance Breaker!" In a purple flash of light, Issei was donning a purple Geronic light armor with 2 wings on his back and a shadow sword on his hip. "Let's do it," said Issei as he dissolved into the shadows and started making his way to the sword. A few floors down the shrine, Issei finally came across a locked room that was emitting much power. "Well, this must be it," Issei said aloud before he kicked the door open. In the center of the room was a sword embedded in a boulder. Moving towards it cautiously, Issei grabbed the hilt of the blade and pulled it out. Just as he did, the hologram of the Nero appeared. Nero was a tall blonde man with violet eyes. He was muscular and lean built. He has a kind of smile on his face. "It seems the Red has chosen her new wielder. Use her well, kid. That blade has the power to make it possible to conquer. Don't let it go to your head and you will be fine." The hologram said it before it disappeared. Just as the hologram disappeared, the whole area started to shake and began to collapse. Oh shit. Issei, as he then channeled the power of his other 2 dragons and shouted, "Heavenly Dragon, Balance Breaker." The 3 dragons shouted in unison as Issei was now donning a completely different and stronger armor. It was black in the color and had the color of the Welsh dragon, wings, head, and tail of the vanishing dragon. Finally, gems on it were dark red. Overall, because of the armor, Issei could have been called the new Black Dragon Emperor. Forming an energy barrier around him, he fired a strong dragon shot at the crumbling ceiling and immediately flew behind it. Soon the dragon shot broke through the roof of the shrine and flew onto the sky as Issei, who was flying close behind it, shouted, "Yeehaw!" He then landed in front of his team, who were watching the splendor of his new armor. Issei then focused the energy of his divine dividing and synced it with the swords, absorbing it into the gear of Ascalon for Drag and Skydium for Vitria. He landed in front of his team and released his armor before grinning at them. However, he didn't get a chance to speak with Jean flash in front of him and kicked him hard enough in the stomach before pulling his collar and kissing him hard. When they broke apart, she hugged him tightly and whispered, "You idiot, don't do stuts like that again." Chuckling, Issei hugged her before his voice spoke. "So it was you who fired the black dragon shot, huh?" Issei immediately knew who it was with a grin and said, "It's been a while, hasn't it, Volley?" Chapter 13. Unity. "It's been a while, hasn't it, Volley?" Issei asked as he broke the hug with Jean. That it has, bro. What are you guys doing here?" Volley asked as he pointed at Issei's group. "Here to rescue Volley Tempest. I'm sure you have connected enough the dots considering your group is here," Issei answered back. "Yep, we were actually sent by Azazel to rescue Valerie Tempest. Since both of our missions coincide, does that mean we fight?" Volley asked as he released his divine dividing, which had a purple light coming out of his unusual blue. Interesting. So you have a fragment of Fafnir's soul in your gear along with Albion, huh? Nice. No, a fight won't be necessary since the hero faction will be joining the alliance, Issei announced as the other members around Issei nodded. So finally admitting the supernatural are stronger, huh? Never expect you to be the one to give up, Volley said, the shake of his head and angrily smirked. Really, Issei was really fun. Don't bet on it. Lucifer, the only reason we are joining is because we face a common foe. I am sure Azazel must have heard of the 3rd Chaos Brigade faction. They are planning to retrieve the Trihexa, which is why we are joining. I am sure you know the implications of that, right? Asked Issei. Very well, then we will join forces for this operation, but keep in mind, try any funny business and there will be hell to pay, Volley warned outwardly as he grinned internally and turned the walk in the direction of Romania. Watch what you say, Lucifer, we are not devils here, Issei replied back, smirking inwardly as his group followed Volley to camp to meet with the rest of the Volley's group. Issei was internally excited to meet Lefay again, but it had been ages since he has last seen her. He couldn't wait to hold her slender form and kiss her again, though he would have to inform them of his decision to have a harem again. After a few minutes, they arrived at Volley's camp. They saw the rest of the group there. However, Issei could react as he tackled by a blonde bro who kissed him square on the lips. He already knew who it was and didn't waste any time before he reciprocated it. After they broke apart, Issei tightly hugged her and said, "I missed you, Lefay." Lefay blushed as he didn't say anything. Soon Jean came forward and sweetly said, "Issei, dear, who is she?" Lefay looked at Jean and narrowed her eyes before she said in a similar voice, "Issei-kun, who is she?" Issei sighed. He had already been expecting this to be said. "Part of my new harem. You are both important to me. Lefay, you helped me love again, while Jean, you brought my heart back to where it was before. It was criminally broken. So my original aim of harem is back, but is currently subjugated." Both girls sighed before they fell into Issei's arms. He gladly hugged them both tightly, letting them know that he loved both of them equally. He then got up and said, "We all have the same mission. We'll be performing it together. Before we continue, we shared the information we have to formulate a good battle plan." Volley nodded and said, "Information on our pet has been next to nothing. The only thing we know is that Tempest family has a sacred gear that they are using in the war versus the Berated. One of the Berated family, a vampire called Eman, visited the Alliance and said they'd join if we gave them Gasper. Rias disagreed and currently is here to negotiate. So you know next to nothing. We are in luck you have a lot of information. Valerie Tempest is Sacred Guild wielder. She possesses the Holy Grail. I am inclined to believe that the 3rd and mysterious group of the Chaos Brigade. Why do you ask Crescent Circle Dragon Kromkoch and 3rd Dragon Super Devil Rising, Livy and Yusufer are currently in the Tempest territory. It is my guess they want to the Sacred Gear to retrieve the Trihexa." Issei answered as he exchanged the information with Team Volley. Volley's eyes widened as he began releasing a dangerous aura. Issei then said, "Calm the hell down, Volley." Here is the plan, Gregor. Siegfried and Arthur, I want you three to hold on to the Crom Crouch. Lefay and Jean will be waiting in the teleportation area. Elena, Leo, Kuroka, Byoko, I want you guys around keeping any outward interference out of our fights. Understand? Everyone nodded. However, before they could leave, Siegfried, I know what you are thinking. Even in this fight, only the Graham, you'd be dead otherwise. Arthur, keep up your speed at all times. Gregor, cover them with your strongest spells and sacred gear. You have 3 toughest fights tonight. I want you 3 to come back alive. If you die, I will infiltrate the realms of death and bring you back before killing you again. Am I clear? Both Craig and Siegfried nodded. Arthur lowered and looked at Issei for a short while before nodding himself. Issei then turned to the group 2 and said, Leo, don't overdo it. Use your imagination to be ready for anything. Use what I taught you, most importantly, to come back to me alive, idiot. Kuroka, don't die. Volley won't survive if something happened to you. Byoko, stay safe. You were one of the reasons why I learned to smile again. Don't die on me. Elena, stay alive for Arthur's sake. They nodded and then turned to Issei, to Lefay and Jean and said, I want both of you guys to stay alert and inform the rest of any drastic change in the battle and also protect each other from any attack. Stay safe. I don't know what I'd do if something would happen to you. Both of them hugged Issei before wishing him luck and telling him to stay safe for them as well. Issei then signaled everyone to leave. Issei and Volley were about to leave when Tacho, Issei-kun, and Leader-sama, several voices called at once. Issei turned to look at everyone. He saw all of them grouped together and smiling as Siegfried said, You stay alive for us, Tachio. Issei then grinned and said, Oi, who do you think you're talking to? It will take more than one super devil to keep me down. After saying that, everyone left do their parts. When finally Issei and Volley alone, Issei turned to them and said, Volley, don't fear or be angry. I will be right behind you. Volley grinned and said, I know. Let's go. We have a girl to rescue. He then lifted his fist and pointed it at Issei. Issei grinned back before fist bumping. It was then Vanishing Dragon, Balance Breaker. Albion roared out. Fafnir, I will use you later if need to be. That sounds like a plan, Volley. Fafnir replied. On the other hand, Whelp's Dragon, Balance Breaker, Drake roared. AI Vitria, I may be in a new mode and alert. Right, both dragons replied. After this, both Issei and Volley looked at each other before nodding and flying towards their target. And that will conclude for what we are doing today, ending with Chapter 13, Unity. So, as always, the story is linked down in the description below, and this is called The Scarlet Betrayal by Alpha Flash. I just wanted to clarify that. Again, thank you for all the support. We literally just hit 19,000 subscribers. And again, if you guys want to know when I literally upload, just join the channel membership button. You don't have to, of course, it's not required, but I just tell you guys when I'm going to upload, and I also give shout outs to my channel members because they're also paying me monthly, which is really cool of them, and I thank them a ton. Again, thank you for all the support. Again, 19,000 subscribers. What a crazy, crazy adventure we've been on. We're on that 20K grind. We're going to have 20,000 people. It's honestly crazy to think that many people have subscribed to me. But again, thank you for all your support, and I really do appreciate you. Now, I hope you guys want more series. I'm going to do What If Naruto Was Betrayed, and I'm going to make it extremely, extremely good with some really out of touch or really in touch narration. And I'm going to try to really speak with it like I did with this series and all the other series I did before. So I hope you guys will enjoy that series. It'll come out probably after either this series is done or the continuation of Great Red. And don't worry, that will be a thing as well. But if you guys want more anime like What Ifs on Goku, things like that, you know, just tell me what your recommendation is down below and I'll get on it. So without further ado, that'll be it. Once again, thank you for 19,000 subscribers. And Spartanic out.